Hi there! Welcome to yet another cosplay video tutorial on my channel. This time it is all about Arcane Season 2, Episode 7. Delusional me would pause this episode 5 minutes before the end and keep this moment forever. We can try though by sewing Powder's top and skirt from the dance scene. Let's go!
This is what's gonna be the end result of this tutorial, and I'm really proud of making it in just 1.5 days. I know this dress is missing shading and paint details, but I decided to skip them until I have more time to do them properly instead of messing them up in such a short time frame. Now let's move along in the tutorial.
All you need to sew this yourself is
white cotton fabric of your choice. The amount is depending mostly on your circle skirt, then add about 1/2 meter for the top. About 1/2 meter of lining fabric, I use the same white fabric as for the outside. Less than 1/2 meter of dark red fabric for the details, 6 buttons of your choice, 2 meters of cord, 8 eyelets for the back closure, scissors, bobbins and fabric clips, sewing chalk, basic sewing equipment, and of course, a sewing machine.
I link you the products used in the video description. This tutorial is based on the patterns you can find in my Etsy shop. Click the link in the description to have a look, and also check out my Patreon where I give early access to content and you get the patterns as rewards for cheaper. As I really rushed this dress, I took some shortcuts where possible. I will mention them throughout the video tutorial so you can do the steps cleaner or different if you want to. Now, let's get this started!
We will start with all the red fabric parts, and first of them is the modesty panel of the top. The top is not a corset, but it has a back lacing and therefore needs something underneath the lacing to hide your back. Cut out all 4 parts of the modesty panel with your preferred seam allowance, pin the mirrored parts together and sew them to each other as indicated in the pattern. Then iron the 2 pieces, pin them together on 3 sides and leave one side piece open. Sew these pieces together, cut the seam allowance short, turn it around, pull the edges outwards carefully and iron it. Now, if you want a clean look, you could iron the seam allowance on the open side inwards, but in my case I just used a zigzag stitch to close it here. Now let's move on to all the other red detail pieces on the top. These are also done fairly similar as the modesty panel. Cut them out with your preferred seam allowance added, pin them together and sew around the outside as shown. Leave the inside seam open as well. Cut around the seam allowance, turn it around, pull the edges out and iron the pieces. Then add a zigzag stitch on the inside allowance to secure the pieces. Repeat these steps for all the details. After that, we can finally move on to the actual top parts. Cut them out from your top fabric as indicated in the pattern, and don't forget to cut all parts mirrored from the lining fabric. In my case, I used the exact same fabric for the lining as for the top, as I only had that on hand. Then you can start assembling the pattern pieces. Pin them to each other piece by piece and sew them together. Don't forget the lining pieces have to be mirrored. After that, you should end up with 2 top pieces and 2 lining pieces. Now place the lining on the corresponding top piece and pin them together right on right side. Sew around the whole piece, but leave a bit of it open in the back to turn it around afterwards. If you want to sew it the extra neat way, you can also leave the side open that connects to the red details on the bottom. I didn't have time to do that in my case, and it doesn't change the outer appearance. Turn it around. Pull the edges out, repeat these steps on the other top piece and iron both pieces afterwards. Then close the open sides with a straight stitch very close to the edge. After that you can pin both top pieces together. Then turn them around and take your modesty panel and pin it to the inside of the right top panel, directly on the seam between top back and top side too. This is how it looks from the front now. Then I hand sewed the modesty panel to the lining. As said, you could also sew it in or at least hide the seam allowance, but I was in a rush here and this was faster. I then took my pattern to place the red details on the right spot and pin them in place. On the right top side, you have to pin the red details to the modesty panel in the back of the top as seen here. Pin the details on the left side too. Here you can see how it looks from the back now. Now pin the top front details too. I sewed the red details on by adding a straight stitch all over the edges of the top. When starting at the modesty panel, you have to add the stitch on the top of the fabric without the red panel first, like this. Now go along all white edges like this. As you can see, I also sew the top white parts together like this here. Do that until all edges of the top have a tiny white seam and all red details are sewn in place. Then change the thread to red and add the red detail on the lining too. Iron the top before the next step. We're now adding the top straps. These are cut out 2 times and 2 times mirrored from the top fabric. I just sewed them together right on right side, turned them around and ironed them, turning the seam allowance inside. Then I closed the open seam with a straight stitch from the outside. Now pin the fabric straps in place. Here you can see that I already added the eyelets in the back in an irregular arrangement, just as in the series. Before sewing the straps on, add the eyelets and loop the cord through to try the top and adjust the strap size if needed. If you're happy with the fit, sew the straps in place by hand. After that, you can mark with a pencil where to put the buttons in the front. Place them carefully one by one and sew them in place. These are all non-functional buttons, as there's no buttonholes in the top. And then you're basically done with the top and you can set it aside. We will continue on the skirt. I just sewed a regular circle skirt for that. Let's have a look together on how to do that from scratch. I first took my fabric that was already folded on the centerfold and folded it in the length direction to create 4 layers in total. After that, I drew my personal skirt pattern onto the fabric. The pattern that is shipped with this product already indicates all areas where and to what it has to be changed to fit your size. Cut your pattern out carefully and don't forget to add seam allowance. After that, I cut the full circle open on one side for the zipper. You can then try out if you like the length and fit so far. If you're happy, repeat these steps one more time with your lining fabric to have 2 circle skirts. Put these skirts right on right side and then stitch around the long outside. Turn it around and iron. Then add a zigzag stitch on all open seams to reinforce them. Then cut out the waistband in your measured length twice and sew it right to right side. Then turn it around. When ironing, press the open seam allowance inside as seen here. Now take your skirt base and pin the waistband to the top as seen here. With a straight stitch, sew waistband and the skirt base including lining together, like so. After that, you can finally add the zipper. If you've never done that, there's amazing tutorial videos out there. I'll link you some in the description. Here's how I did it in the quickest way possible. I first removed the ends of the zipper above the stoppers and burned it down so it's not in my way when sewing. Then I pinned the zipper down on the insides and I used a straight stitch on my zipper foot to get the seam very close to the zipper on both sides. Now close the zipper and finish the seams at the zipper ends. Pin and close the rest of the skirt with a straight stitch now. Be careful when sewing around the zipper area. Before turning it around, I also secured the seam allowance of the zipper to the zipper material with a zigzag stitch. Then turn it around, close the zipper if open and iron the seams to lie flat. There you have it! A super flowy skirt, perfect for a dance.
And that's it, you're done. I can't wait for your creations with my patterns, so if you followed along, please tag me in your work in progress content, I'd love to see.
I think there's also thanks in order as I reached 1000 subscribers here on YouTube. Thanks for sticking around and
thanks for watching, bye bye!